Okay, it's 6:31. Okay, well, it's 6:31. Good evening, everybody. Folks here in the studio and online. Welcome to our last Parent Talk of the year. My name is Michelle Petrusevich, and me and Lauren are the two Parent Talk co-chairs for you this year. This is our last Parent Talk of the year, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Enzo and Mr. Weaver and Mr. Tasso, as well as Mr. Tresco and Mr. Summerfield. Here we will speak about who will talk about AI guidelines for Vancouver College, and then the two teachers will show some examples that have been used with AI. So the presentation will go on for about 45 minutes. Then we'll have some Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'll pass it on to Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Michelle, and once again, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming, whether it be in person or online. I hope the Canadians are still winning out there. Those of you that are watching off the side of your screen, I know they were up early. But thank you for taking the time. We are going to walk you through relatively rapidly, myself and Mr. Canavos, the AI guidelines. And then you will hear, probably more excitingly, you'll hear from a couple of our staff about what AI looks like in our classrooms. And then there will be time for some questions from the audience. So we look forward to those. But first of all, as we do at All Things VC, we are going to start with a prayer. And we are blessed tonight to have one of our Vancouver College finest, Mr. Sasha Junisov, who is going to come forward and lead us in prayer.
In the spirit of Blessed Edmund Rice, we embrace AI with critical minds and open hearts. Guided by faith, reason, and compassion, we seek to form students who will shape technology as a servant of truth and love, not be shaped by it. May our use of AI always reflect the light of Christ and the dignity of every human person. Amen. Blessed Edmund Rice, live Jesus in our hearts. In the Father and Son and Spirit.
Thank you, Sasha. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Why are we talking about AI? Well, AI is out there. It's already upon us. It's used throughout very different communities, whether it's in the school, business world, all over the place. So our role is not simply to react to technology, but we want to form students who can use it with wisdom, judgment, and character. At VC, the question is not, can students use AI? The big question is, who are they becoming as they use it? So these are the questions that we've framed a lot of our work in over the last 12 or so months to help pave the way. We want AI to support learning and growth, not to replace effort, creativity, thinking, relationships. Ultimately, this is about forming better men, as you see up on the slide there. Our guiding philosophy: authentic learning still requires effort, struggle, revision, failure, and perseverance. These are all really important parts of learning. Final outcome is only one part of our learning. The process, the journey is those hard yards where we help develop people. Our Catholic mission comes first. AI must serve the mission of VC, not reshape it. We're not changing who we are at the core, even though the technological world is changing. I can't believe I'm saying it, daily, let alone weekly or monthly. Things are changing daily. And AI must never replace relationships, our moral discernment, intellectual struggle. We are so blessed to have so many wonderful educators in this building. And so much of it is based on relationship and community. And as lovely as these machines are, as lovely as AI is, you can't replicate that. I heard a grade 12 boy doing a practice speech today, and he was saying AI might be able to say that you went to VC, but AI will never know how it feels to be at VC. So the relationship, the connection is so paramount. The guiding question. This question is our filter, so to speak, for AI use. Does this use of AI help form students in faith, character, and intellect, or does it replace the work they are called to do? So we're grounding ourselves in this sort of guiding question whenever we're approaching a task. Efficiency alone is not a goal. It's so easy, and you've probably heard stories of people shortcutting. The elephant in the room. Write me an essay on boom, boom, boom. That's not the goal. Just because AI makes something faster does not mean it makes learning better. And so we're really working hard as a community to let the boys understand that this is a process, and we need to get dirty, messy in the learning, and not just want that shiny final outcome. And again, I go back to relationship. Our teachers know the boys. And because we know the boys, we know what is authentic to them and what is maybe been created in AI in a way that we don't want them to create. And we'll talk about what's appropriate and what's not shortly. I'll pass it over to Daryl here.
Thank you, Tess. So yeah, going back to our first principles, as our principal, Mr. Canavos just said, we need to look to our faith to guide us here. We are in our mission, of course, first and foremost, a Catholic school. So in formulating these guiding principles and deciding what direction we should take in terms of the revolutionary changes that AI are bringing to our community and to our culture, we look at three documents in particular. Well, one is more of a way of being, Catholic social teaching, as defined as our students learn in the classroom and what that can tell us. Secondly, we look to recent papal documents that have come out. Pope Francis wrote a document last year, shortly before his passing, on AI that we excerpted in our guidelines. And excitingly, Pope Leo, this Monday, actually May 25th, is releasing his next encyclical, his first encyclical, which will be completely on the topic of AI. So we are anticipating what he's going to say and basing our work on that. At its core, though, of course, we are also an Edmund Rice school. So we do look to the values of Edmund Rice as expressed in our essential elements. And so when we bring it all together, there are really three guiding principles that form the basis of how we deal with AI. And the first one is the idea that, as we say in one of our elements, we are here to educate the whole person. If we simply use AI, we are limited to the techno-rational. We are not doing justice to the complete person, as we know is so important here at BC, be it the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, all those other aspects that cannot be replicated by machines. Secondly, collaboration. As Tasso just noted, teaching is so purely relational. What goes on between the teacher as a human being and the student as a human being is magical. And it's not something that can be replaced or replicated by a machine in any way, shape, or form. And thirdly, finally, and this is what we're expecting to hear from Pope Leo on Monday, we have to bear in mind that there is inherent human dignity that we have to protect. So every time we are using AI, we have to be careful. Are we equating AI with humanity? There is, we believe in our faith, a substantial difference between the two. So we have to be cautious about that. And that means also that we have to realize the implications of using AI. So what are the costs on the environment? What are the costs in terms of resources? What are the damages that are being done on a societal frame that we should be aware of? So we have to keep all those things in mind when we are formulating our guidelines.
So jumping into some core convictions here, AI is a tool, as we've been saying. It's not a teacher. It can't have that relational aspect. Education is personal relationships. Students need to be known, challenged, supported, and cared for. And it's just, you're going to keep hearing that message tonight. Some of the deepest learning comes through effort, frustration, the process, revisions, questions. This is really vital to us. Human judgment, effort, and voice remain essential. Daryl was mentioning. We want students to become thoughtful and ethical users of technology, not dependent on it. So tools are wonderful, but we want the craftsman, not just the tool. So what will we not allow AI to do? We can't let it replace student thinking. It can't replace teachers' professional judgment. It can't undermine relationships or authentic voice. We have to protect that authentic voice. Students need to develop their own ideas, their own writing, their own style, their own confidence, their own identity, and their own confidence and ability to advocate for themselves in mistakes. Falling down and failing is not the end of the world. It's how we learn. Some of the toughest, greatest learners we have failed many, many times, and that's okay. It's how do we build people back up after? And if we're getting quick and easy answers all the time, we miss that. So we're not going to allow that to happen. Technology should support relationships, and talking about relationships, not weaken them. So AI can be a really powerful tool, but a tool only. What parents can expect. Human relationship remains paramount. It remains central. Community relationship is one of the greatest things that we have going here in our faith and learning community at Vancouver College. That can't change. Teachers remain responsible for assessment. Student privacy is paramount. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we're not using student names. We're not using any private sort of information in AI when we're using it as a staff to assist us in our day-to-day tasks, because privacy is paramount. You can also expect continued communication as this work evolves. As I mentioned earlier, this stuff's changing daily. So this presentation's up to date now. It might not be next year. I could pretty much certainly say it won't be up to date in 2 years. But as we evolve, we're going to continue to stay on top of things. A little bit about our development approach. K-9, we build foundational skills and resilience, habits, learning how to think independently. Students need to build confidence through practice, effort, as I've been saying, through play. Through 10 to 12, well, we teach discernment and accountability. So older students need to learn how to use AI ethically, honestly, and responsibly. The goal is gradual formation toward maturity and integrity. So the 10s, 11s, 12s, we can push them a little bit more. Quick, I'll try to fly through this pretty quick, but in the primary divisions, for any of the K-3 families out there, we don't use it. Students aren't using AI tools. The focus is on literacy, numeracy, curiosity, relationship, play, getting messy, learning in multiple modes, but not through our AI. In the intermediate divisions, in 4 to 6, the students still generally don't use the AI directly. Teachers may discuss what AI is, some of its limitations, but again, not much happening from a student perspective in our elementary years. And as we get further in middle school, limited teacher-directed use may be introduced. AI can support some thinking again, but not replace it. The goal is guided exposure here, not open-ended use. And then in the senior school, students are, as I mentioned, prepare for ethical use in post-secondary and beyond. AI can be scary, and it depends on where you're at on the sort of pendulum of how comfortable you are at it. Some people are very comfortable. Some people are terrified of it, but it's here. Just like the internet's here, just like cell phones are here or smartphones are here. It is something that we don't foresee going away in our greater society. So embracing it and learning how to use it in an appropriate way is really important for our senior kids.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So just to add to Mr. Canavas was just showing you in terms of these guidelines, I think I should have mentioned this at the beginning. So we have been working through this as a faculty and a staff for more than a year now, and including hiring professional help to work with us as well. So all of these guidelines are, although you as parents are seeing it for the first time, are things that have been worked at and created as a faculty team here, and the faculty are certainly aligned and following.
Yeah, absolutely. So some areas that are sort of permitted student use, some brainstorming, organizing thoughts, clarifying understanding, generating study questions. I know my son, a student here at VC, I've seen him create more sample questions for pre-calc or calculus in studying for a test. These are all solid uses of AI. Some prohibited student uses, it's completing assignments for you, removing that thinking, removing that struggle, replacing your original thinking, and submitting AI generated work as their own. That's a big no-no. That's submitting someone or something else's work as your own, and that's in line with our own academic what's the word I'm looking for?
Honesty.
Thank you. Academic honesty framework. This would be built in. So we don't want the boys submitting something as their own if it's not their own work.
Just before you leave that slide, just a caveat on the permitted student use, knowing we have some teachers in the room, just the permitted student use are at the discretion of the teachers, of course.
And we'll get into that a bit more in a few moments here. So privacy matters, as I mentioned. Student names, class lists, sensitive information must never be entered into public AI tools. Being a school, we have the benefit of, and being a Google Suite school, we have the benefit of being in the educational package of Gemini, which has really tight safeguards in terms of privacy and safeguarding. So that's almost inherent from Gemini, but we know we do have some people that might choose to use Claude or Chat GPT. And so we have these guide rails in place for outside of the educational suite of Gemini.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And speaking of faculty, this is an important note that we want to make sure parents are aware of. We know that in terms of technology, we can get into a bit of an arms race with our students if we are trying to always catch them. So that is definitely not the approach that faculty are taking. It's not a matter of trying to find the student, prove that they're guilty, and make them feel badly about that in any way, shape, or form. As Mr. Canavo said early, instead of relying on any kind of AI checkers, well, those might be helpful in indicating or that perhaps some inappropriate AI use has happened. We do rely much more upon the fact that we do know our students and we have inherent trust in them. We can recognize when it's not their work because of that. And as per our academic, our pedagogical approach, we trust in process. Our teachers don't just give an assignment to the students and not actually walk them through the process and therefore have checkpoints along the way that indicate that the student is engaging in the learning. Okay, so what you can start to see coming home from your boys next year is that we'll have on assignments a few indications that will be shared with them by their teachers that will indicate to them, so there's clear transparency upon when AI can be used or cannot be used. And this is similar to what's being used in other, notably West Van School District, other school districts that are at the cutting edge of AI policy. So we have a traffic light motif here, basically, where it'll be clarity around every major assignment. Red, this assignment does not involve AI use at all, so do not use it. On the other end, green, this is an activity in which you can completely go nuts, use AI as much as you want. As you can imagine, that'll be fairly rare. And much more will fall in the middle, in the yellow. And that will be some clarity around when, and there's actually an editable part of the icon here that teachers will fill in, when you can use AI and when you should not be using AI in that particular task. Okay, so on the other hand, you'll also start to see your boys bringing home at the end of their assignments, they'll have what we're calling a student sign-off, student AI sign-off. And I know Mr. Tresco will refer to these later when he talks about what's happening in his classroom, because a lot of these were developed off of his fine work. So credit to him. So two different aspects here. So that if AI was not used, it's simply just a statement that I did not use AI, and I will sign my name by that. And because we are men of honor here that we're raising, we can trust that inherently. And then on the other side, if AI is used, oh, sorry, did you already?
Yeah, I already hit it. Sorry, there we go.
There you go. Sorry. If AI is used, there's clarity. The student is actually putting in at the end of their assignment how they use AI, all the way to down to the level of, for example, if they use an LLM, that they have put in what the prompt they used looked like, so that the teacher can have a clear understanding of the limits of their use of AI. Yeah. Okay. And then just waxing a little bit more philosophical, I talked about how we have, as a faculty, done numerous professional development sessions. We've been working with an American professor who comes from a Christian faith background, but academically comes from a technological background. So he has a blog as well that he's been publishing a lot of work, as well as coming to visit us and working with our staff online. And we found this very helpful in philosophically deciding when we should not use AI. Many of the faculty did. It's what he calls the AI wisdom matrix. His name is Josh Brake, if you're interested in looking him up. He works at Harvey Mudd College in California. And basically he breaks tasks down into two different kinds of areas. He says, our tasks, whatever you're doing in this particular task, is this something that's routine, that's rote, that you don't really need to think about, it's just repetitive and boring? Or on the other hand, the opposite is something that's deeply human, a very human task, something that you really need to engage in personally. And then on the other set of parameters, what is your goal? Is your goal simply to create a product? You're just trying to get to the end, trying to get her done? Or are you actually trying to learn the process and learn how to do something? You're maybe honing a skill, for example. So a simplified way of looking at this is basically, if there's 4 different possible outcomes here, right? So if the task is just simply rote, there's no learning in it, and the point is to just quickly get to the end product, then that is probably a wise place to use AI. Okay, so go ahead and use AI in that way. In all the other possible combinations, so if the task may be rote, but it's important that you're learning the process, and I'm thinking of learning the times tables, for example. Not that exciting, fairly rote, but you really have to, they're important. It's an important life skill to be able to multiply, know those timetables. So you should engage with those things. You should not use AI. You should figure out how to do it yourself. Unless that AI that you happen to use will maintain that friction that we talked about, that effort that you have to put in, that does indicate that learning is going on. Or conversely, the last two options are, again, if the task is human-centered, even if the goal is just to get to the end, because it's human-centered, you should not use AI. You should work with your teacher, with other students to learn that particular skill or task. And then ultimately, probably the richest type of task, if it is human-centered and you're trying to really work through the process, even doubly important that you do not use AI. Okay.
Great. So the role of parents. Parents play a key role in helping students develop honesty, effort, and discernment. It takes a village. We need to work together as household and school community. At home, the focus could be on effort over shortcuts and learning over simply getting answers. I like this. I wrote this quote here. Good questions can be more powerful than lectures. So ask your boys good questions. Parents can ask, did you do the thinking first? Did your teacher permit AI? You sure you could do this? Does this reflect your understanding? Do you understand what's being produced here? Where are you at your journey? The school-home partnership really matters. When we are aligned, students are more likely to use AI responsibly. Our commitments to families, we continue to review the tools. update guidelines and communicate transparently. This is a journey, a long journey, a continuous journey. Okay. Mr. Weaver spoke briefly about environmental impact. So I created this image using ChatGPT, and I think it was about 7, 8, maybe 9 prompts to get it to look like this. So the closing quote I have here is, technology must remain a servant of truth and love. And we feel pretty strongly about that. But I had to go back and forth with chat to get the proper background. You can see the school in the background there, to get the right colors, to not have the boys wearing blazers, because we don't have blazers at our school. It was really interesting how I wrestled with this photo. And the only reason I put this photo there is so I could just say this to you. Prompts matter. So another thing you could talk about with the boys, and we talk about it with them here, is what you put in, you get out. So if you have good prompts, if you're putting in good questions, good prompting action to the AI, you're going to get better responses back. And that could be, words, or it could be images or what have you. But one thing we didn't talk about, and Dr. Brake used the word a lot when he was here for Pro D, was it just before Christmas, just after Christmas? I can't remember. It's an amplifier. I really like that word. This is to amplify learning, not to replace it. So how can we take things and amplify the learning and really use it as a successful tool, not replace it? And you'll hear a little bit about that from two of our finalists shortly here, but I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nardi real quick.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. My name's not on the board here, but my name is Enzo Nardi. I'm the assistant principal in charge of senior school. Before I introduce Mr. Tresco and Mr. Sommerfeld, I just want to have the opportunity to say I'm early on this journey with AI myself, and I took a course through UBC about what education would look like in the future and how it's changing. And what I thought would be pretty negative, cautionary tale turned out to be something more along the lines of excitement and how it's going to change and make education better. That was kind of the slant it took. And as the course was progressing, I was kind of thinking, yeah, internet came along, it changed education quite a bit, and we adapted. And there's a lot of information out there now that people know that they didn't know 20 years ago or 30. So it is an interesting shift. And so thinking AI in terms of possibilities is exciting. And I think as a staff, as education in general, we're going to have to shift and adapt. And we're not scared about that. I think good things can come out of this. Okay, so just a few things that I know before I pass it over to the teachers here. Things that are probably going to have to shift quite quickly. Just authentication, making sure things are authentic. There'll probably be a need for more personalized experiences and opinions from students in the education world. And then obviously focus on process, which has been shifting for quite a while now. So those are kind of the areas that are going to go pretty quick. I think final product will be minimized, and it'll be more about the process and scaffolding and grading as things go along. So that's kind of what I want to say here. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Tresco and Mr. Sommerfeld just to talk about how they're going to achieve that authenticity and maybe that process and that personalization that we need from this, from the future students. So who wants to go first? Mr. Tresco, come on up. Thank you.
Hello, as Mr. Nardi said, I'm Mr. Tresco. I teach senior school humanities, English, religion, literature. So I'm going to basically just discuss how AI has impacted my world over the last 5 years or so, and some of the things that I've done to try to address its presence in the classroom. A lot of this will just be giving some examples of some of the general principles that Mr. Canavos and Mr. Weaver have already walked us through, hopefully with some value added as well. So a couple of the kind of essential questions I've been wrestling with since that fateful Christmas break when I discovered the thing that was ChatGPT in 2021, whatever it was. One, how can I prevent students from outsourcing careful thinking, reading, and writing to AI? The possibility for just using this to avoid thinking, avoid writing, and avoid reading was just so clearly apparent. So what can we do to prevent that from happening? And then one more specific one that I wrestle with a lot as an English teacher, as a humanities teacher, is there still a place for out of class writing in the age of AI? I know that one move that a lot of people have made, and I respect and understand people have made this move. I'm not saying it's the wrong one, but one move that a lot of people have made is just everything comes in class. That's it. That's it. That's all. And I think that we all have to make a version of some version of that move. I think more needs to be done in class to frankly protect the students from themselves. It's in some ways too much to ask of them to avoid that temptation that is right there. It's really challenging. So I certainly have moved more of my assessment in class in the era of AI. Right now, I still want to believe that out of class work and out of class writing can happen because frankly, I think it's an important form of learning. And I don't want to rob my students of the opportunity to do that kind of work merely in the name of preventing plagiarism. Because the reality is, so many of my students do want to do that work. They want to do it the right way. And to take that away from them feels like frankly, a tragedy to me as a teacher, to take away that opportunity to really develop their ideas and create something they're proud of. So I want to be able to assign out of class writing. And mainly that's what I'm going to speak to here is how I'm trying to do that in a way that still is authentic and that feels frankly secure. So I've put kind of 5 methods here, some of which I'll elaborate on in more detail. The first one, inspire them to see the value in the work we are doing and remind them of the importance of integrity. I just want to pause on that one briefly. Mr. Canavos and Mr. Weaver talked about, how can you help us as parents? What's the role of the parents here? And I would just add to that this is a big one, helping the students to value the work they're doing. We saw that little 4-quadrant thing earlier, and there's the one that's, okay, this is just a product, I need to get it done. And frankly, a lot of the time, the students put everything in that part of the quadrant. They're like, oh, I've been given something, I just need to get it done, right? That's kind of a mental habit that we all have, right? We're all guilty of this at times. And we're trying to convince them, hey, this can actually be a really meaningful part of your formation. This can shape your intellect. This can shape your heart. You can wrestle with this question. And they still put it in the quadrant of I just need to get it done. So you parents helping us create a culture of seeing the value of the work that we do here, that it's not merely about getting it done, that it has meaning for its own sake, that there's joy in it. That's one thing you can really help us with. Okay, back to more specific things. So inspiring them to see the value in the work we're doing. That's something I try to do in the classroom all the time, unapologetically. Being extremely clear about what my expectations are for where they can or cannot use AI. I'll show some examples of that in a moment. So really clearly outlining that. Designing checkpoints earlier throughout the process to ensure that students are doing the work. Again, I'll show some examples of that. And having an in-class alternative for the students who are not doing the work. Having students attach a declaration or an honor oath to their work, indicating where they've used AI and where they have not. Mr. Canvos and Mr. Weaver talked about that. I'll just show a couple examples. And then informing students of how I will be investigating their work to ensure that it's authentically theirs. So before I show examples of those other 3, I'll just pause on number 5 for a moment. So I do just regularly remind my students, like, hey, you got to compose in Google Docs. I've got to be able to see your document history. I am going to be looking at that. Or for a recent research paper, I told them, hey, I'm going to be taking your quotes that you use, and I'm just going to be making sure they're not AI hallucinated ones, right? I'm going to be just basically going command find in the source that you've given me. And I'm going to be like, is that quote actually in there, right? And that's just some accountability in terms of their research. And I just normalize talking about that with them. That's something that they know is going to happen. And they know that it's a common expectation for everybody, so that hopefully those who do want to do the work the right way feel a little bit more secure of like, hey, this is actually being watched. Oh, sorry. Yes. AI hallucination is when you ask AI, hey, can you give me the 5 most relevant quotes in this article? And it makes stuff up that doesn't actually appear in the article. Yeah, there's been lots of prominent cases of this. There was one a few years ago, and legal court where there was AI hallucinated stuff that wasn't real. Now, from what I understand, there's debate about whether or not AI is going to get better at this or not. Some people are saying it's getting better. The hallucinations are going away. So this is a bug that'll be worked out in a few years. Some people say because of its stochastic nature, where it gives a different output every single time, this is a bug that will never go away. So there's different debates on that, I think. I'm not totally up to date. So yeah, I tell them that I'm going to be consulting those parts of their work. As Mr. Weaver said, that doesn't include the percentage measurers of this was 50% AI, just because those have not really been found to be reliable. But the ones I lean on are the document history, hallucinated quotes. And those sometimes lead to conversations, right? Where I say, hey, I've got some questions about how your work was composed. And we sit down, we have a conversation about that. And I do think that most of the time, if I sit a student down and have that conversation, and there's something that they need to tell me about how they've used AI inappropriately or otherwise plagiarized, usually we can discuss that honestly and frankly together, and then walk through the process that's outlined in the academic honesty policy. So this is one kind of tool in the toolkit that I use to kind of begin that conversation. Really briefly, I'll just show you some examples of some of those other ones. So this is an example of how I try to be clear about my expectations for where they can or can't use AI. So you can see I've told them, hey, here's 2 ways that you can use it. You can use it as a search engine to provide links to sources, right? So this is just a better search engine, a better Google, a better JSTOR, whatever it is. You're already using an algorithm whenever you Google something to find stuff. So if this is just a better way to find it, okay, that's our okay in my books. The other one I call Spell Check Plus, helping you identify errors in your work, in your grammar, in your sentence structure, etc. I give them a suggestion for a prompt they can use as a spell checker. Frankly, I've found limited success with this. I haven't actually really found that it helps students that much. But I've said, hey, if you want to try this, if you know that you have issues with comma splices or whatever, and you want to say, hey, help me identify the comma splices, kind of helping with those technical aspects of writing, then that is allowed. And then again, I clearly indicate no other uses are permitted for this assignment. One that I didn't put on there that I also allow them to do is first drafts of a works cited page. There's all these citation generators out there that, it'll give you the MLA citation. If you want to use ChatGPT or something like that to make a first draft, that's fine. But again, it's a first draft. And that goes for all those citation generators, right? You got to make sure that the formatting is correct. You got to make sure that it's giving you the proper information. As well, designing checkpoints to ensure that students are actually doing the work. I'll just show you an example of this. So this was on our senior thesis, our big research paper that we wrote in English 12 this year. You can see there was 5 different checkpoints before they actually submitted the final process. So there was kind of their big question, their area of inquiry, a research log and a refined question, an essay outline and a draft thesis, and then an oral presentation that was done in class, and finally a rough draft. Another one that I did for our 1984 synthesis unit, they had to read 3 peer-reviewed articles and choose which one they were going to synthesize with the novel. And they had a package in which they would do all of their annotations and some of their essay preparation. And I would check that at the beginning of each class, and then they would give it to me before they started writing, so that I could, again, kind of see some of the preparation. Now, for the students who weren't keeping up with those checkpoints, I made an in-class alternative. So it was basically like, all right, you're not doing the work. You're not taking the opportunity that I'm giving you to develop your ideas. This has become an in-class essay for you. So that kind of reframes the opportunity to do work out of class as something that you want to preserve, right? That you've been given this trust, you've been given this opportunity, and here's what you need to do to kind of retain that. The honor oath, Mr. Weaver and Mr. Canvas have already spoken to this, but I'll just say, of course, this doesn't prevent somebody from, from lying, frankly, here. They don't have to disclose what they've done. But I do think it's a meaningful thing to ask students to give their word, to put their word to what they've done. And I think for a lot of students, appealing to their integrity in that way is a meaningful gesture of trust and is a meaningful way to make them think twice about what they've done. And then just one last one in terms of, again, assigning out of class work that is still easier to authenticate. This is kind of in the weeds as an English teacher, but I have found that for some smaller literary analysis assignments, I can have them start from a really specific starting point in the writing prompt, one that AI will have trouble identifying. So here's an example from 1984, a reading that we did earlier this year. They have to identify what is the announcement that the protagonist's two companions at lunch swallow. And that's a specific quotation there. It's a little bit of a weird phrasing, but they have to identify that. And then I ask them some deeper analysis questions based on that kind of plot level identification. And because that's harder, but not impossible for something like an AI to find, that is still a kind of literary analysis type assignment that I feel comfortable giving them outside of class. Here's another example from Dante's Divine Comedy. These are, I think, really important, frankly, because they're also ways of scaffolding the reading for students. When I'm assigning questions like this, I'm implicitly teaching them how to read by telling them what to pay attention to, of like, hey, here's some really small detail. Here's how you work from that detail towards deeper meaning. And because of the way that they're structured, I still feel comfortable assigning them out of class with all those other things that I've already mentioned. So that, I think, is all that I had to present. And now I will invite up Mr. Sommerfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Tresco. So when I was 20 years old or so, I took it upon myself to teach my 3-year-old nephew how to light matches. And I can feel the judgment from all of you at this point. I'm a different person. I thought it was going to be fine. He didn't have access to matches. All was good. About a week later, I discovered fully burnt matches burnt into the carpet. And if you remember back in the day when printer paper was all connected, fully burnt match on top of an entire pile of paper with soot all around. So that was close. He could have burnt down the house because of what I taught him. I still feel the judgment. Please. I take that and I apply it to AI use. There is a time and there is a place to use AI. For context, I teach high school. So when you're introducing AI to your children, just keep this in mind. It can be dangerous. Now, fire is a good servant, but a bad master. AI introduced that quote to me, and I had to verify it. And as you can see from the slide, there is like 20, 30 different possible authors. So this is a quick lesson for us to learn. When you use AI, verify. All right, a little bit of humor here. So we are going to take a look at the meme on the left. So what's trending on socials today? Socials just means social media. I had to learn that recently. So Instagram, X, all of these other ones. So we start with the lower quote. Sometimes in the process of writing a good enough prompt for ChatGPT, I end up solving my own problem without even needing to submit it. And of course, the response to that is AI folks have now discovered thinking. The takeaway from this is some research is now showing us that productivity to some degree can go up with AI use. But in coding, for example, computer coders, they're forgetting some of the basic tools that they used to know offhand. So they are relying on AI and they are forgetting important things. So that's one principle I carry forward in my teaching. Another principle is on the right here. We have someone who asked AI, is this mushroom safe to eat? And AI said, yes, this is a meme. It's not a real thing. And of course, anyone who has used AI to any degree and has a level of expertise in what they're talking to AI about will know that AI makes mistakes. And so here we have AI saying, you know what, you're right. The mushroom was poisonous after all. I'm sorry for the confusion. Would you like to learn more about poisonous mushrooms? But at this point, it's too late. So what we need is to teach our students, teach your sons discernment, when to use it, when not to use it. When is it going to hinder me? When is it going to help me? So as a teacher, there are any number of ways students can use AI in the classroom and at home. Just an analogy here. So AI as a climbing partner, a mountain climbing partner, not as an elevator. So we see the elevator in the background in the AI generated image we have here. The elevator is also AI. It can do the work for you. It can get you from point A to point B, but you miss out on the process. And we talked about process already. Experiential learning. Like these are things that are absolutely essential for students. The climb. Using AI in this instance to guide and direct as we climb a mountain. Now, does anyone see any irony in this analogy? I left it intentionally. Using AI to help someone climb a super steep, really high mountain. So the analogy works to a degree, but only as an analogy. I will give you the answer. My students figured it out rather quickly. You don't want to trust AI to tell you where to put your next step. So again, discernment is important. The consequences in this case would be very dire, very consequential. And so how can students use AI? One of the prompts I get my students to use often is to take material that is a little over their head and ask AI to explain it to them such that a 10-year-old could understand it. So explain this to me so that a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old could understand it. And it will paraphrase. It gives the students a jumping board, and it's a way of scaffolding the information. So it can help equalize when the information is above any given student's head. Another way students can use AI at home is for testing. So test me on X, Y, and Z. Do not give me answers. Give me the test. Am I correct? Am I not? Any number of ways you could use AI at home. Help me plan my study schedule. So it's not just about getting answers. It can be about organizing their lives. Help me to plan my week. When am I going to sports, etc. So that's for students. So when and how they use it, 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different ways. What we need to teach them is discernment, when to use it and when to not use it. It is about enhancing learning. It is not a substitute for learning. It can hinder learning, so we have to be careful. On the right here, so how do I use it as a professional? Not to write little paragraphs. You can see the title, totally not written by AI. That's what this document is called. But if you notice on the far right, there's a rubric. Feel free to read the criteria. The bottom one is gave Mr. Sommerfeld a Christmas present, currently developing. Humor. It's humor. It's funny. Okay, you were judging me earlier. You're allowed to laugh now. I developed this Google extension using Claude AI. So I have somehow become a coder without knowing anything about coding. And so this particular app, we'll call it, has helped me to increase my efficiency in marking. Now, it's not doing the marking for me. It's making the rubric accessible to me in real time, so I can go through assignments and export things to a spreadsheet later on. That is one example. I've used it to do like touch screen, student assessment, any number of things. So that would be it for me. I think we have a Q&A now. All right, I'll give it back to Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Sommerfeld, Mr. Tresco, Mr. Nardi. So we're running close time. We have about 7 minutes left, and all of these fine brains are available. But we do have time for a few questions if we have them out here. Dibs to those who came in person first. If we have any questions from the crowd, no, and from the virtual world, do we have any? Sure.
While people may or may not be getting questions ready, this was a snapshot. I think Mr. Weaver touched on a snapshot of where we're at with our AI guidelines. We'll share a paper copy of our AI guidelines shortly with the community, so you can see where we're at. But again, I do want
or a digital one.
Yeah, that's what thank you, a digital. But I do want to stress that this is evolving, as mentioned. So it will be a living document as we learn and time passes.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I mentioned the faculty have been working on this. We are finding that it is, I mean, you heard from 2 English teachers today, probably because English and the humanities have been more impacted than any other department. But we have learned that it is quite department specific in terms of both use and abuse of AI. So you will be hearing from in your sons, from their teachers in different departments, that there are slightly different but uniform within the department approaches to AI, and you can expect that in the year ahead.
Go ahead, read it.
Are there any plans? Are there any plans to have an AI course as an elective for high school?
Yeah, good question. The short answer at the moment is okay. Mr. Nardi is our senior school principal. Is that not a standalone specific elective? Lots of reasons for that. I think probably prime among them is, as you've just heard from the teachers and from us, is that it's probably makes more sense to have it embedded within the courses, within the context. And then the secondary answer for me would be that, just practically speaking, I'm not sure that would be a popular separate elective, considering how students, and particularly in the senior school, are thinking about their post-secondary requirements, and presumably that would not be on that list. Anything else to add? No? Okay. Oh, we got any other questions? We've lost our questioner.
There's a question: how about a mentorship program to strengthen the sense of community?
So a mentorship program in general, as not an AI mentorship program, I'm interpreting that as.
Didn't specify, but
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I would say that already is a strength of our community, something that we want to continue to enhance. It makes me think of, I was just doing some reflections on the year and some writing of my own, and it makes me think about the house system this year and how we've developed student leadership there. And we see a mentorship a lot through that. And the other place I've seen it recently is through the Alumni Association, and how they are intent on developing more mentorship for boys once they're at VC, and also as they head off. So yeah, mentorship will remain a key focus at our school going forward.
Yeah, I know the alumni has been engaged. We recently had, just this past Friday, our Grad Legacy Day. We had a keynote speaker and three breakout speakers for the grade 12s, and having a grade 12 at home and listening to him and his friends reflect on how meaningful that was, and how many nuggets they took away from that morning was great. It was great to hear that sort of authentic firsthand data coming back from our boys. So definitely something we'll carry forward with.
Yeah, one of the strengths and the joys of being the leader at this school is that you see that all the way through the K through 12. You have mentorship within the school as a possibility, but then even once the lads are gone through the Alumni Association. Any other questions?
That's all for now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. Most especially thank you to Mr. Canavos for his hard work this year in leading our AI professional development. And of course, the teachers that after a long day of working spent the evening with us here. Back to you, Ms. P.
Thank you so much to all the presenters. Dear parents, I hope you found this useful and interesting. This session is recorded, so we will be distributing it through the newsletters. And with that, this concludes our last Parent Talk of the year. And have a great summer. Thank you so much.